The smallpox epidemic of 1713 began on February 13th when the crew of a Dutch ship stopped at a refreshment station at Cape Town in what is today South Africa. Some of the crew under the command of Johannes van Steelen had come down with smallpox while in Asia. Their clothing and other laundry were sent to the slave lodge of the Dutch East India Company, or VOC, to be washed. Within weeks, the company's slaves were dying from smallpox at the rate of about 8 people a day, and Euros were starting to contract it as well. By May 1713, the smallpox disease had reached pandemic proportions. The dead could not be buried due to a shortage of wood from all the coffins being made. By June 1713, the epidemic was largely contained on the Cape Peninsula. However, it continued to spread into the interior. White settlers were the first to be affected, and emergency supplies had to be imported from Batavia in what is today Indonesia. By the end of 1713, the disease was no longer a threat to the settlements, although nearly a quarter of the European population and half of the African slaves had died. As soon as the epidemic was over for the Euros, Cape Town officials ordered the reconstruction of the affected areas. However, the indigenous Africans were not so lucky, especially the Khoikhoi. As it ravaged their people with no indigenous medicines that could be used for smallpox, they felt that the Europeans had cursed their land with death. So the Khoi fled the peninsula with all their belongings in the hopes of escaping the smallpox. But this was in vain. The strain of the journey caused those affected to die even faster. Then, the unaffected Khoi groups whom they encountered in the interior, to which they had fled, began killing the fleeing Khoi when they started dying off themselves. In February 1714, it was reported to the governor of the Cape that less than 10% of the original Khoi population of the Cape had survived. Whole clans were often annihilated, leaving so few survivors that the remaining clans collapsed. For this reason, most indigenous clan names have been lost. Those remaining Khoi were either integrated into other native communities or became laborers for the colonies. With Khoikhoi society decimated, Euros moved into areas previously inhabited by the Khoi,